Hi, scholars. So today we're going to look at sequence a little bit more in our story. And let's remember that sequence means the order that things happen in our story. So the order of events, just like with our apple tree, we plant the seed, there's a sprout, something grows like the apple, and then there's a big tree. That's the order that things happen. That's this sequence. Also, in our story, we're going to see if there's any teamwork because that's what our essential question is, our very, very important question, scholars. So let's see if we can look for those things in our story today. I think you're going to like it. Today, we're going to read a Pete the Cat book, and it's called Pete the Cat, Pete's Big Lunch. Lunch? Here comes Pete. It's lunchtime. Pete is ready to eat. What should Pete eat? A sandwich would be nice. Yes, Pete wants a sandwich. Pete opens the fridge. He takes out a loaf of bread. He finds a yummy fish. He adds tomato and mayo. Pete looks at his sandwich. It's too small. Something is missing. Pete knows what it needs. His sandwich needs an apple. Pete loves apples. His sandwich needs crackers. Crackers are crunchy. Pete loves crunchy crackers. Pete looks at his sandwich again. It's still too small. Pete is very hungry. Pete adds a pickle. Pete adds cheese. Pete adds an egg, 2 hot dogs, a banana, and a can of beans. So, scholars, let's pause here and look at that sequence. First, there's a pickle, then the cheese, then the egg, then the hot dog, then the banana, and then the can of beans. Something is missing. Pete adds ice cream. He takes 3 huge scoops. Look at all of those items that he put on there, scholars. Let's check the sequence one more time. Bread and fish and mayo and tomato and apples and crackers and pickles and cheese and eggs and hot dogs and bananas and beans. And now ice cream, scholars. Wow. That's a lot of things, but we can see that Pete added them all in a very special order. Now, is Pete using teamwork right now? No, right? Because it's just Pete doing it by himself, which is okay, but I'm going to see if we can find some teamwork later in our story. Pete's sandwich is too big for Pete to eat. Pete wonders what to do. He thinks and thinks. If it's too big for just Pete to have, what should Pete do? What could he do to use teamwork if he has too much food? I've got it, Pete said. Pete calls all of his friends. Look it, he called 6 friends, scholars, and he asks them to come over. Everyone goes to Pete's house. They are all very hungry. Look, they rode their bicycle, then the skateboard, then the longboard, right, scholars? And do you see that big tall sandwich inside? I do. Takes up the whole window. Pete shows them his big lunch. Are you hungry? Asked Pete. Pete's sandwich is big enough for everyone. Dig in, says Pete. Pete's sandwich is good. Pete's sandwich is very good. Now, scholars, how did Pete use teamwork? What did he do in the story to have teamwork? He invited all his friends over when he knew that he had lots of food and it was too much for just one person. So he invited his friends over and they worked together to eat the food and they didn't waste any. Right, scholars? That's a wonderful way to use teamwork. And Pete's sandwich was very good. Pete's sandwich was all gone. Pete's friends are full. They liked Pete's big lunch. Thanks for lunch, Pete's friends say. Thanks for sharing. You're welcome, Pete says. Sharing is cool. And that's right, scholars. Sharing is a big part of being a good teammate, and sharing is cool. Now, what I would like for you to do, scholars, to remember our sequence, let's look at this poster one more time. While we look at sequence, I would like for you to share on Seesaw the order in which you would make a sandwich. It can be any kind of sandwich at all, but I would like for you to draw your sandwich and tell me the order, the sequence that it would go. What kind of bread? What would you put on it? Would you make it a hot sandwich or a cold sandwich? Kinds of things would you do, scholars? So why don't you share the order that you would do to make a sandwich on Seesaw, okay? And I can't wait to see all the good work you're going to do. We'll talk to you soon.